Okay, Amir, nice to see you. Thank
Nice
you
seeing
for
you,
joining
Vince.
me this
You
afternoon.
look good.
Thank you.
New haircut.
It's
New you.
It's you're very observant. It's
Yeah.
growing, and it's kind of like out of control at the moment. It's like whatever, but
Hey, look, if it's growing, it's a luxury, you
it's
know,
a
at our
luxury.
age.
And people say to me all the time, "At least you have hair."
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean.
It's like okay, whatever. But
Look,
no,
we could spend this next 10 minutes talking about hair if you like.
I know,
I'm
well,
happy
yours
to
is
do
not
it.
so bad either.
Look,
But I seriously want to say thank you for what you've done the last 21 years with the magazine and the online presence, The Real Deal, in our industry and those who understand what our industry is about. Your book is our Bible.
yeah.
Every week, fresh stories, fresh news articles. Every week, as we talked a little bit offline.
Daily, we're daily. you
And
know,
daily now. But as we talked about, a little bit offline, the quality, in my opinion, the content is amazing. It is so spot right on. I understand the organization has grown through the years. Look what you've done here today at the forum. This forum is incredible. I don't know, I heard something like 4,000 people here
Thank
today.
you.
Truly amazing people for real estate. Where do you get the inspiration every day to wake up and to continue? You've obviously reached success with The Real Deal. It continues to move in a great direction. But you as its leader and as its mentor, where do you get that inspiration every day to come to the office or to speak to people who work for you to keep them motivated to continue doing that job so well?
Well, I have an immigrant mentality because I am an immigrant. And, that mentality is that everything you have can be taken away from you at any moment. And I saw my father being, he was a little bit younger than I was when he had a very established life. And he was forced to leave the country, like with a suitcase, and come to a place that he didn't speak the language or anything. And I didn't really experience it because I was a kid, I was 7, 8 years old. But that sort of mentality is
But
always
it's ingrained in your mentality, yeah.
So you're always worried about losing everything, and so that keeps you on your toes a lot. The other thing I think about and that motivates me is that I'm 50 years old now, and I've been doing this for 21 years. And one thing that I've noticed with technology and with people in general is that the age gap. People used to have some sort of a relevance way into their 60s and 70s and so on. And that relevance keeps shrinking down more and more. So I try to hold on to this and make sure that we keep it valuable for readers. And we always, one thing I always tell our editorial team is that we have to think about how we can be indispensable to our readers. Like, there has to be value for these guys. It can't be feel good. It has to have real value where people read something and they walk away saying, like, I'm informed, like, I'm equipped now, I'm informed with this information, I'm better. So I try to, those are the things that keep me going, and I try to convey that to the team as much as I can. It's hard to convey that to younger people who grew up, in the States. I feel like everybody in this country has everything so easy.
You're right.
Everything is so easy for everybody here. And which is great. Thank God for that. That's why I think we came to this country too. But it's hard to convey the feeling that, like, if we don't do well today, like, you're only as good as today's news.
Like they say in the show business realm, you're only as good as your last gig.
Exactly.
But I
yeah.
love what you say because it is so true. And I remember hearing my dad tell me the same thing growing up myself. You understand and you know what you have today. You may not have it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So protect it. Make sure it's okay. Work harder so tomorrow it gets better and better versus potentially leaving you at some point.
And this is not like finance or some sort of a, it's media is very fickle, especially in today's environment.
Absolutely.
Something could come out. Luckily, with information, it is a commodity and it is a mine, right? Like, you have to mine information. So there is real value for it, the same as it is with gold or anything else that you could actually mine. So no matter how technology changes, how people consume it or how it's distributed, the information itself is incredibly valuable. And that information requires a lot of effort. It's a lot of younger people, they don't want to get on the phone. It's a very
text
thing. But if somebody's trying to reach me for information that they need and they're texting me or emailing me, I just ignore it. But it's harder to ignore a phone call. It's harder to ignore an in-person meeting, and I try to convey that to the team as much as I can. And sometimes they just don't understand it until they actually experience it, and I point it to them. I'm like, you got that piece of information because you went to this event and you met with this person. And that's how it happened. If you would have texted that person, it would have never happened.
What are your thoughts, actually? Because I'm probably going to share them and agree with you. But what are your thoughts, though? Because you touch on a good point. You know, the youth of today, and we'll leave it at that, is so inclined to pick up the phone. I mean, as I'm sitting here all day long talking to people, my text is off the wall. I can't even imagine what I'm going to go home to read. You and I agree, and most other people agree, that a simple phone call, better than 7 text messages back and forth, would accomplish everything. But yet it's not happening. Also, I want to ask you about that effect on your business, and also social media, which has completely jumped out of the box from day one and is exploding and evolving, I think, faster than we're able to keep up with it.
Right.
How is that affecting your business?
Well, social media.
It?
Well, it's been amazing for us. I tell my team, if we had a publishing house in the 1980s, I wouldn't have to change my business for 30 years. But from 2010 to 2024 now, we had to change our business model 4 times. There was the programmatic ads, the social media came out, now it's the subscription business, and so on. But social media has been incredible for us because it's a free platform, and it's really available to everybody. It's like a computer and the internet. A lot of people have access to it, but it's like the people who actually use it to do something with it. But it's incredible that you have this immense platform that can give you access to people all across the world. You don't have to pay for it, and the more you use it, the more you give it, the more it gives back to you. But for us, it's become another massive distribution channel of our content and our news, and introduces us to a whole new group of people that we wouldn't have been able to reach before.
Let's go back 21 years for kicks and giggles, because I remember being in the business for a very short period of time when The Real Deal came out, and everybody's like, what is this, what is this, what is that? Back then, 21 years ago, you saw something, you saw a need. What did you see, and what was that need, and why did you think that a magazine at the time, like The Real Deal, was going to be exactly what we in the industry needed? How could you know that?
Yeah, so real estate is the largest asset class in the world. I started it in New York City, and I was flipping apartments for myself in Brooklyn, and I couldn't find anything to read about where I should buy, what's hot, what's not. There was only the New York Times real estate section. And then all the trade publications were very fluffy, and there was a lot of pay for play. But at the same time, it was a very intelligent audience, right? Like you had lawyers and doctors and professionals who made a lot of money and who didn't have anything to read. Meanwhile, you have finance who had like a dozen different publications, including Bloomberg, including Wall Street Journal, and a whole slew of other things that were strictly for that trade. But real estate, which is a larger asset class than finance, didn't have anything that was intelligent, that was sophisticated. And look, I'm not going to admit that, when we first started, it wasn't what I had envisioned for it, but we did what we could out of my apartment,
Absolutely.
But I knew there was a need for it. There was clearly a need for it.
There was, and I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that it was very well received from day one. And has continued through. Now it's online, now it's daily. So whenever you need, I host a podcast for the past 10 years, as I've told you, and I take a lot of information from your reporters and from your magazine articles or online stories, and I use them to come up with my own stories or what I want to talk to people about, and certainly in my news feed.
Sure.
And gladly give you guys credit for it. But I find, as you said before, there's a lot of fluff out there, there's a lot of stuff out there that just does not make sense. You guys get to the meat of it. And now, also, you're not only in just New York City, you're all over the place. Tell us a little bit about the expansion of Real Deal in Miami, in LA, and wherever.
Yeah, well, one of the things I want to address what you said about information and how there's a lot of fluff out there. One of the things that happened with social media, everybody became a newscaster, but nobody had journalistic
that's so true.
sort of training. So people thought news was basically just them pointing their camera at something and filming it, or asking a question of somebody and so on. But we keep a very traditional style newsroom in our office. Like, we do expect people to fact check things. We do expect to have two sides to every story.
Isn't that something?
It sounds novel, but it's not. It's very old. That's what news is supposed to be.
That's what the news does.
But now you have like normal people who are like, I have my own media company. Like a guy that I really admire, car dealership guy. I don't know if you know this guy, but he's a big hit on that Twitter, and he has a massive audience, and he has a media company. He's car dealership guy, but he has like no news training, So he's like, oh, well, if I get a sponsor who pays me, I'm going to have them on there. Like, for us, that would be a major conflict.
Of course.
If somebody pays me to come and speak on my panel, I would say, no, you can't do that, because that means my loyalty would be to you, who's paying me, rather than my readers who are paying to be here, right? So it's to explain that to people and to instill that to a wider audience, because I don't think people appreciate it. They don't appreciate it knowingly, but they appreciate it as they consume the news. They're like, oh, this is interesting. There's the good side and the bad side. It's not just one side of the story being told. They sort of they subconsciously appreciate it, and that's what we do.
You might not agree with all the facts in any realm of reporting. But if it's legitimate, if it's fact-checked, if it makes sense, you read it, you know what you're reading, and you move on. And you going into other markets, like now, for example, today, you opened up the show today with Mayor Suarez from Miami, right? So why was he here?
The sixth borough of New York.
The sixth borough of New York, I was going to ask you.
We're in 8 markets.
I mean, whenever we talk about New York real estate these days, we're always also talking about the Miami marketplace, right?
Yeah, well, Florida has taken a ton of investment from New York.
Oh my God!
And we've given it up. And tens of billions of dollars that should have been invested in New York City have gone to Florida. We went to Florida and covered that market very early on, because there was always a connection between New York and Florida, Miami especially. But the reason why I had the mayor here is because we are missing out on some basic things that it's going to be too late for us by the time we realize what we're missing out on. We're losing tax bases here in the city because we're having people leave. The ultimate success of a city is its population. Since COVID, we've lost 550,000 people. The greatest city in the world has lost 550,000 people. It's not by choice. I know people say, oh, it's because of crime, it's because of this. It's because people have been pushed out, because rents have gone up, it's gotten too expensive, and all these social movements and all these progressive policies have had the exact reverse effect that they were trying to go for. They were trying to make everything available and have things be fair and have prices be stabilized. And it's had the absolute opposite effect of it. They try to, not police certain areas and not police certain things too much, because they thought those areas and those people and those neighborhoods were policed for so long that it's become part of their sort of DNA in those neighborhoods, and they pulled back, and it's had the reverse effect. Crime has gone up in those areas, and if you talk to the people who are actually in those neighborhoods in the Bronx, so it's not Manhattan that's losing people. In fact, Manhattan added 78,000 people last year. Manhattan added 78,000. But the city as a whole lost people because we lose them in the neighborhoods that's the hardest for those people to leave, in the areas of the Mott Haven, in the Bronx, in Queens, and those
in
areas.
neighborhoods where people have lived for years, through
and
family generations, and they're forced to leave.
And those are the people. The socialist movement was there to serve those people, and they've done the absolute opposite of that.
So, in the last few minutes that we have, I always like to pick a little bit and say you found such enormous success, not without hard work. Okay, hard work, whatever, and perseverance and whatever you've done to build your business to where it is. I mean, literally, as I said at the top of our conversation, the Bible of our industry. What's next? Well, where do you go from here, Amir? I mean, you've done it like super successfully.
Well, we got a lot of work to do with the real deal still, right? So there's new venues, there's new cities that we want to expand into, and we want to be able to do more events. And we like doing large events, but we do small events too. Like we host intimate events for 100, 200 people.
This event is probably one of the finest of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you should come to the Miami one. The Miami one is 2 days,
I can imagine how wonderful that is.
That's about 6,000 people. and it's great, you know. But of course, we love New York, and New York is our home base.
Absolutely.
So we serve this market well too. But I'd love to be able to do this size event in our Los Angeles, location, in Chicago, in Texas, where there's a massive real estate community. And you know, we just launched in Texas 2 years ago, but it's become 15% of our audience now, which is huge.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, we are out of time.
Thank you so much,
so
Vince.
much for
Nice
coming.
seeing you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.